They found her on the marble floor, close to the giant bath inside the Haven Center. No clothes, no blood, no sound, just her skin still warm, her eyes wide open, her fingers curled in, her lips parted like she had tried to say something. One white towel was folded under her head, one red string tied around her wrist. They called it a peaceful death. They called it rest. But there was nothing peaceful about it. There were dark bruises on her thighs. Her shoulder was dislocated. And when the nurse found her, her mouth was full of water. They said she drowned in her dreams. They lied. Her name was Mama Ebele, but the papers said Patient 017G. She used to heal people in a poor village before the Haven people took her away. People traveled far just to feel her touch. She boiled leaves for coughs, rubbed oils on children's legs, and sang to dying women to ease their fear. She lived alone in a small house. She used to sit under a tree with her pot of herbs and call to the birds. She never asked for money. She never owned a phone. She never looked for power. But she still lost everything because of him, the boy she raised with her own hands. He came to her when he was only 16. His skin had cuts. His body smelled like trash. He didn't speak for 2 days. She found him sleeping under a broken shed near the stream. She brought him home, fed him yam and palm oil, gave him a mat to sleep on. That night, he cried in her arms. She held him like a baby. He started calling her Mama. She started calling him Nana. He helped her sweep the compound. He followed her to the forest to pick leaves. He asked questions about the herbs, about the songs, about the small carved stone she wore on her neck. She felt happy again. He made her smile, but she didn't know she was teaching a snake. He started sleeping closer to her mat. She didn't mind. He started looking at her in strange ways. She told herself it was her imagination. One day she came out of the bathroom and found him staring, not at her face, but at her chest. She covered herself. He didn't move. She asked what he was doing. He said he was looking for her necklace. She believed him. He started giving her long hugs, longer than a mother should get. His hands would slide around her waist, lower than they should. She pulled away once. He frowned. She laughed to hide her fear. He stopped smiling that day. That night, she saw his shadow outside her room. She asked him what he was doing. He said he heard something and came to check if she was safe. She believed him again. She told herself she was just tired, just getting old. Then one day, he said he wanted to learn how to mix the oils. She was happy. She showed him how to heat the palm kernel, how to crush the leaves, how to chant while stirring. He copied every move. He wrote everything down. She was proud. But one morning, her healing book was gone. The small red book her grandmother gave her. The one with her most powerful secrets. She cried. She turned the house upside down. She found it in his bag. He said he only borrowed it to copy the words so he wouldn't forget. She shouted. She told him to never touch it again. He looked at her like a stranger. He said she didn't trust him. He didn't speak to her for 2 days. Then he apologized with a smile and cooked her pepper soup. She forgave him. After all, he was her child. Then came the first lie. He told her some rich men wanted to help her open a bigger healing center, that people needed her gifts, that her work must not die with her. She said no. She said the healing was not for profit. He nodded. The next month, her face was on a website. Her chants were being sold as wellness audio. Her oils had new names: Ebele Elixir, Jungle Calm, Spiritual Clarity Serum. She asked him why he did that. He said, I'm spreading your power, Mama. She said no. He said the world must hear her, even if she didn't want it. He said she was selfish. She cried. He told her to rest. A week later, 2 men came with papers. They said her land was not legal. They gave her 7 days to move. She begged him to help. He said, "Come live at the center. Let me take care of you." She had no choice. The center was made of silver and light. It looked like a palace. Her room had warm sheets, glowing lights, soft music. But the door didn't lock. The windows didn't open. The food tasted strange. There were no birds outside, just speakers playing fake bird sounds. She felt like a visitor in her own skin. He came to visit once. He brought cameras. He hugged her in front of the press. He said, "This is the woman who saved my soul." She smiled for the picture. But when the cameras left, so did he. After that, things changed fast. They brought her new clothes, tight robes that felt too clean. They gave her new herbs. Her own mixtures were taken away. She began to feel dizzy after every meal. One nurse stayed longer during her baths. She would press her chest hard, rub her thighs too slowly. When Ebele tried to cover herself, the nurse would laugh. "Don't worry, Mama. This is for cleansing." She reported it. The nurse was gone the next day, but a new one came. Same touch, same laugh, same slow movements. Ebele began to lock her bathroom door. The staff said it was against safety rules. They took away the lock. Then came the massages. They said she needed help with her joints. They brought in a young man with gloves. He touched her lower back longer than needed. He massaged her thighs, then moved up, slowly, higher. She told him to stop. He smiled. He said, "This is what the body needs, Mama," she told the manager. The next day, she was moved to a different wing, smaller room. No lights at night, no more visitors. She began to forget her own prayers. She started hearing her name in the walls. Then, one night, she woke up with someone in her room. He was leaning over her bed, whispering her name. He looked like Nana, but older, colder. He kissed her forehead. He said, "You are ready now." She said she didn't understand. He said, "Your body has served its purpose." She said she wanted to go home. He said, "There is no home. You are home." The next morning, her oils were gone. Her altar was gone. Her stone necklace was gone. Only the red string remained. Then came the water ritual. They told her it was cleansing. They led her to a silver chamber. There were soft lights, gentle music, white towels. They told her to take off her clothes. She refused. 2 nurses helped her. She screamed. They played loud music. She fought. They smiled. They said, "This is for your peace." They placed her in warm water. They rubbed something on her skin. Her heart began to race. Her mouth went dry. She tried to speak, but only a soft sound came out. Then silence. Her body floated gently, eyes open, arms wide, mouth parted, the red string still tied. 2 days later, the press announced her peaceful passing. Nana cried on camera. He said she was a light that would never fade, that her final wish was to live forever in the spirit of Haven. Then he announced a new product line, the Ebele Soul Cleanse Experience. But that night, far away in the forest, a girl boiling herbs by fire began to cry for no reason. She held her chest. She whispered, "Mama Ebele." The first time he bathed her, she still believed he was a good boy. She had just come back from the hospital. A small stroke, the doctor said. It left her weak on the right side of her body. She could walk, but only slowly. Her hand couldn't grip things well. Her knees shook when she stood too long. He sat beside her bed and held her hand. He said he would take care of her now, the way she took care of him. She cried. She thought it was love. The staff at the Haven Center offered to send a nurse. He refused. He told them, "She is my mother. I will care for her myself." They smiled and left. He closed the door behind them. That's when the real abuse began. The first bath was gentle. He spoke softly, helped her sit in the warm tub, poured water on her back. She told him he didn't have to do it. She was embarrassed. He smiled and said, "You bathed me when I was small. Let me help you now." She looked down and nodded. It felt strange, but maybe she was just being old. He soaped her arms, her shoulders, her legs. Then his hands moved between her thighs. She froze. She said softly, "That's not needed." He said nothing. He kept washing. He said she had infections building there, that if he didn't clean it, she could get sick. He said it in the same calm voice he used when he prayed with her years ago. She felt shame in her throat. She said, "All right, just this once." But it wasn't just once. The baths became daily, then twice a day, then longer. He said the oils needed time to soak. He made her sit naked while he rubbed her skin slowly, in circles, her breasts, her belly, her thighs. He said, "This is healing, Mama. This is what they teach at Haven." She asked, "But why must it feel so wrong?" He smiled. "Because the body is still learning to let go." She wanted to believe him. She told herself her thoughts were dirty. Maybe she was sick in the mind. Maybe the stroke affected her head. One day, she locked the door before he came. He broke it. He shouted at her, for the first time, "You don't trust me? After everything I've done for you?" She cried. She said sorry. She never locked the door again. After that, she stopped arguing. She let him touch what he wanted to touch. He would press his fingers deep into her belly and say, "This is to help your bowels move." He would slide his hands under her breasts and say, "I'm checking for swelling." He would brush her lips with his thumb and whisper, "Mama, you're still beautiful." She wanted to die, but she could not move. He controlled the food she ate, the pills she took, the people she was allowed to see. When an old friend came to visit her at Haven, he sent her away. He said Ebele was too tired for guests. He said she needed silence. She tried to call her brother. The phone never connected. He said the signal in the building was bad. She tried to write a letter and give it to one of the housekeepers. The next day, the housekeeper was replaced. She asked the new girl her name. The girl just smiled. She stopped trying. When she complained about the tea tasting strange, he said, "It's for your mind. Your blood pressure is too high." When she said her skin was itching, he said, "It's part of the cleansing. It means the toxins are leaving." When she told him she was afraid of being alone with him, he said, "Afraid of me? The boy you raised?" He looked hurt. She felt evil. She said, "Sorry," again, again, again. Then came the therapy machine. He brought it into her room one afternoon. It looked like a silver bed with lights under it. He said it was a deep healing chamber, that it used sound waves and vibration to open energy paths. He said she should lie in it for 20 minutes a day. She said no. He said, "You don't want to get better?" He said, "You want me to watch you suffer?" He said, "You don't believe in me anymore?" She lay in it. The machine hummed softly. She felt sleepy. After 2 weeks, she started forgetting small things. Her birthday, her mother's voice, the taste of pepper soup. She told him something was wrong. He said, "You're just tired. The machine is working." One morning, she woke up and couldn't move her legs. He said, "The doctor says it's a flare-up from the stroke. Don't worry, you'll recover." But no doctor had come. He was lying. She knew, but she was too weak to fight. She sat in a chair most days now. He bathed her in bed, changed her clothes, rubbed oils on her chest, saying they helped with her heart rate. Sometimes she caught him staring while she slept. His lips moved, but made no sound, like he was talking to something that wasn't there. She began hearing things at night, whispers, footsteps, the sound of water dripping even when no tap was open. Once, she saw a small black mark drawn under her bed, like a symbol. When she asked about it, he said, "That's a protective seal. It keeps bad spirits away." She said, "But why does it scare me?" He smiled and said, "Fear is the last step before rebirth." She started dreaming of drowning, of her hands being tied, of red cloths covering her face. She woke up once with wet hair and no memory of how she got there. He said, "You had a bath. You don't remember?" She said no. He kissed her cheek and said, "It's okay. Forgetting is healing." Then he brought her a white robe. He said, "The ceremony is near." She asked, "What ceremony?" He said, "Your return to the light." She said, "I want to go home." He laughed. He said, "Mama, this is home now. You are sacred. You don't belong to the outside anymore." She screamed. He pressed his fingers to her lips and said, "Quiet. Don't ruin your ending." That night she wet the bed. She hadn't done that in 50 years. She cried alone. The next morning, she was dressed by 2 nurses in white gloves. They cleaned her slowly, not like caregivers, like handlers. She whispered, "Please don't." They said, "This is the final step." They carried her to the silver room, the same room from her dreams. The tub was filled with warm liquid, smelled like flowers, but also like blood. They placed her inside. Her skin burned a little. They rubbed her arms, her chest, her thighs. She said, "Stop." They said, "Just breathe." The last thing she saw was his face, standing behind the glass, watching her. No smile, just eyes. And then she sank. She didn't remember how she got back to her bed. Her hair was still wet. Her skin still smelled like the flower water. Her chest felt heavy, like someone had sat on it all night. She looked around the room. It was darker than before. The lights were softer now, almost red. There were no windows, no clock, no mirror, only white walls and that soft music again, always playing, like a lullaby from a ghost. She tried to sit up. Her hands shook. Her arms felt like wood. She tried to stand. Her legs gave out. She fell. No one came. She cried on the floor for a long time. She didn't know how long. Then the door opened. A nurse walked in. Not one she had seen before. Her face was covered with a plastic shield. She said nothing, just helped her up, cleaned her, and put her back in bed. She wanted to ask where the boy was, but her mouth was too dry. That evening, a new tray of food came. White rice, beans, and a small cup of tea. She smelled the tea. Bitter. She didn't drink it. She waited. An hour passed. The same nurse came back. She looked at the cup. "You didn't drink it?" Ebele shook her head. The nurse smiled softly and took it away. The next morning they brought her a different cup. She refused again. This time the nurse placed the cup on the table and said, "This one's for your memory." Then she leaned in close. "And your silence." Ebele understood. The tea was not just tea. It was for control, to forget, to obey, to go numb. She started hiding the cups, pouring them into her plant pot when no one was looking. That same week, she found something behind her bed, a small black mark on the wall, drawn in ash. in a circle, with her name in the center. She stared at it for a long time. When she reached out to wipe it off, her hand began to shake. She couldn't touch it. She tried again. Her finger hovered over the ash. Then she began to cry, not because of fear, but because she recognized the mark. It was a binding symbol, one her grandmother warned her about, used in dark rituals to trap someone's spirit. She had never seen it used in real life, until now. She crawled back into bed and pulled the sheets over her head. That night she heard whispers, from the walls, from the floor, from her own throat. She began to see things. Her mother, her grandmother, their faces floating above her, eyes full of sadness. She asked them to save her. They didn't speak. They only looked at her, like they were waiting. The next morning the boy came, Nana, but he didn't look like the boy she raised. He wore all white, even his shoes. His face was smooth, like it had been cleaned too many times. His eyes were black, cold. He sat beside her, took her hand. "Mama," he said softly, "it's almost time." She didn't answer. "You were the key," he said. "All of this began with you." She looked away. "You gave me everything," he said. "Now I will give the world everything." "But they must have you too," she said. "You're not my son," he smiled. "You made me." She tried to pull her hand away, but he held it tight. His fingers squeezed hers until her bones ached. She gasped. Then he let go. He stood. He looked at the nurse in the corner. "She's ready." The nurse nodded. They left the room. The door locked. The lights dimmed. She began to tremble. Later that night, 2 new nurses came. They didn't speak. They bathed her in silence. No warm words, no comfort, just hands. They rubbed her body with oil that stung her skin. They dressed her in a red cloth, wrapped her hair in white, painted symbols on her chest. She asked what they were doing. No answer. Then she heard music from below. Drums, low, slow. She had never heard drums like that in the Haven Center before. They carried her to a lift. It moved slowly. Down, down. They entered a room underground, dark, a circle of candles, a tub in the center, silver walls, smoke in the air. She couldn't speak. Her tongue felt too heavy. The nurses placed her in the tub. It was filled with dark water, thick, warm, smelled like burnt flowers. She tried to scream. Nothing came out. She looked up and saw him again, standing above her. "Nana." He lifted a small bowl and poured it over her head. The water burned her scalp. She wanted to cry, but her voice was gone. He whispered words she didn't understand. Then he said her name. 3 times, each time louder. Each time her body felt lighter, like it was leaving her. She saw white, then black, then nothing. She woke up the next day in her bed. Her hair was shaved, her body sore, her lips cracked. No one said a word. The nurses fed her by hand. She couldn't move anymore. Her body didn't obey. Her soul was tired. The days blurred. She slept. She woke. She dreamed. She bled. One night she saw a little girl in the corner, wearing a white dress, eyes wide, silent. Ebele blinked. The girl was gone. The next morning, a group of people came to her room. Doctors, cameras, assistants. They cleaned the room, rolled her bed near the window, fixed her hair, touched up her face. Then Nana entered with a news crew. He held her hand and spoke to the camera. "This is the woman who gave me light. She is the soul of Haven. She is ready to ascend." Ebele tried to speak. Her lips moved, no sound. She looked into the camera. Her eyes begged. The world saw her smile, but inside she was screaming. After the filming, they took her back to the underground chamber, the same silver tub, the same red string tied to her wrist. This time, there were no nurses, only him. He knelt beside her. He whispered, "Thank you for your sacrifice." Then he kissed her forehead. Her breath stopped, and the room went quiet. End of part 3. Would you like me to continue with part 4, where the aftermath unfolds, the truth nearly leaks out, and we begin to feel the weight of what was lost? They said she died peacefully. They released a short message on the Haven Tech website. Our beloved Mother of Light, Sister Ebele, has transitioned. Her body may be gone, but her energy lives through the healing systems she helped inspire. May we honor her by becoming her. No time, no date, no explanation. There was no funeral, no body, no grave, just a new product launched the next day. Ebele Frequency Bath, Spirit Awakening Set. They used her photo on the label, eyes closed, skin glowing. But the real woman was already cold under the marble floor. No one at the center talked about it. The nurses never mentioned her name again. Her room was cleaned out within hours. The plant pot was replaced. The black mark on the wall painted over. The nurse who used to bring her tea was transferred to another building. The cameras from her floor were deleted from the archive. Even the old caretaker who used to call her Mama said nothing when he passed her empty bed. Everyone knew, but no one spoke, because they were afraid, and because they were paid. Haven Tech was too big now, too rich, too powerful. Their healing apps were on half the world's phones. Their silent meditation pods were in airports, hospitals, even schools. Their sleep teas were sold in glowing boxes with silver leaves. And their founder, the boy she once raised like a son, was now called the Prophet of Light. He wore white every day, spoke softly at press events, touched people's hearts with his words about sacred balance and ancestral flow. And every time someone asked him about the old woman who taught him everything, he smiled and said, "She was never about fame. She wanted the message, not the name." And the crowd would clap. But one person didn't clap. Her name was Lami. She was a cleaner in the south wing of the Haven Retreat. She once cleaned Sister Ebele's room. She was the one who found her notebook, hidden behind a loose floor tile. It was wrapped in cloth. Inside were pages full of small, shaking handwriting, words written in fear, things no one should ever read. Lami hid the book in her coat and took it home. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't know what to do. She read the first 10 pages and cried for hours. She didn't know the old woman, but now she felt like she did. She wanted to speak, to show the world, to tell someone what really happened. But who would listen? She was just a cleaner, and the man she was going to speak against owned half the news channels in the country. So she waited, for weeks. Then one night, while watching the prophet speak on live TV, she made a choice. She took a photo of one page. It was the page where Ebele wrote, "Today he touched me again. I begged him to stop. He said my fear meant the cleansing was working. I cried, but the door was locked. I don't know who he is anymore. He is not my child. I raised a seed, and it grew into a curse." She sent the photo anonymously to a small journalist blog that had once exposed a health scam. She waited. 3 days passed, no reply. Then the article came, titled, "Who was Sister Ebele? The Dark Truth Behind Haven Tech's Forgotten Mother." It wasn't a big story. Only a few people read it. But it spread. Slowly. Quietly. One woman in Ghana posted it on a forum. A man in Chicago shared it on Reddit. An old patient who once drank Ebele's tea recognized her face and shared her own memory. Then someone else said they once visited Haven and saw her limping in the hall, held by 2 nurses like she had no bones left. and someone else said they were denied access when they asked to speak to the founder's spiritual mother. The stories began to pile up. They didn't shout. They whispered, and whispers became waves. 2 weeks later, Haven Tech issued a press statement calling the article an attack on sacred healing and a disrespectful distortion of the truth. They threatened to sue the blogger. They deleted every photo of Ebele from their website. Even her statue in the healing garden was taken down overnight, replaced with a crystal bowl. No name, no history, just emptiness. But the more they erased her, the more people remembered her. More former staff came forward. A young man who once worked in the kitchen said he used to bring her meals, and that one day she whispered to him, "I don't belong here. I want to go home." Another woman, a former nurse, said she quit because she saw bruises on Ebele's thighs and was told some healing processes leave marks. And then came the video. It wasn't clear. It was only 11 seconds, but it showed her in a white robe, standing alone in the silver room, her arms open, eyes wide, and behind her, the prophet, holding something sharp in his hand. It was grainy, no sound, but it was enough. The video spread like fire. The prophet canceled all his speaking events. Haven Tech shut down public tours. Stock prices fell. People began asking questions. Who was she? What happened in that silver room? Why was the mother of the movement erased? The company refused to answer. They paid people to stay silent. They ran soft ads showing healthy women doing yoga in fields, smiling. But the truth was already out, even if it was quiet, even if it was denied. The people who knew her never forgot. Not the woman in the market who still sold her tea recipe. Not the boy who still wore the necklace she once gave his sick mother. Not the sick girl who had been healed by her hands when she was 6 years old. They remembered. And in a small village where she once lived, someone carved a stone. Simple words. Mama Ebele, you gave, even when they took. We carry your voice. He stood at the top of the tower he built, the Haven Tech Master Dome. 50 floors of glass, gold, and silence. Outside, people marched. Not many, not loud, but enough. Some held signs with her name. Justice for Ebele, the forgotten mother. Where is her grave? He looked down through the window, his face calm, but his hands were shaking. He had not slept in 2 nights. He didn't dream anymore. When he closed his eyes, he saw her. Not the old, weak version. Not the one in robes, lying in a silver tub, but the first version. The real one. Her sitting on the mud floor, pounding leaves in a bowl, sweat on her neck, smile on her face. The woman who gave him food when he was starving. The woman who whispered over his chest when he cried from nightmares. He didn't call her mama anymore. He didn't speak her name, but her voice still echoed in his ears. You are not cursed. You are not forgotten. You are mine. He tried to drown it with lights, cameras, music, but the voice was always there, and now the world had heard it too. A small judge in a small courtroom ordered an inquiry. A team of government health inspectors demanded access to the Haven Center. He had denied them once, but this time the doors were forced open. Room by room, they searched. They found the silver chamber, the dark water stains, the red string on the floor, the cleansing tools. The video logs were missing, but one thing was not. Her chair, still there, old, wooden, with her carved initials hidden underneath, EA. The investigators took photos. Someone leaked them online. Now even people who once defended him began to ask harder questions. He gave another interview, said she was ill, said she had memory problems, said she wanted peace, and he gave it. but his voice cracked during the last sentence. And for the first time, people saw him blink too fast. Behind the cameras, he was falling apart. The board of Haven Tech began to split. Some wanted him out. Others begged him to step back for rebranding. He refused. "She is me," he said once. "You remove her, you remove me." They didn't understand what he meant, but he did. Because at night, when no one watched, he opened a small black box under his bed. Inside were things no one knew he kept: her old headscarf, her leaf-smelling wrapper, the string she once used to tie his wound when he was bleeding at 17. He lifted them, pressed them to his face, and wept. For the first time in 20 years. Because the thing he built, the empire, the temples, the retreats, was not built from healing. It was built from hunger, from need, from her. She gave him everything, and he took everything, then erased her. And now it was coming back, like the wind, like her songs, like the soft smell of oil that would never leave his nose. He tried to fight it, tried to drink it away, meditate it away. But the guilt sat on his chest like a rock, and it got heavier. That winter, a small book was published by a former Haven Tech nurse. Title: The Woman They Buried in Silence. Inside were drawings from memory, stories, whispers, pages from the notebook that survived, the ones Lami sent before she disappeared. At the end of the book, there was one photo, faded, of Ebele holding his head in her lap. He was 16. She was smiling. He was crying. The caption said, "Even when I was nothing, she gave me everything." People began to light candles in her name. Not everywhere, not loud, but enough. A small garden was built in her old village. No cameras, no sponsors, just stones and flowers, and her name written on the wall, Ebele Adais, 1949-2023. She healed the sick. She fed the lost. She raised a boy who forgot, and a world that remembered. The prophet of light never spoke again in public. His name slowly vanished from the headlines. Haven Tech still sold products, but people started asking what was in the tea, what was in the oils, what was in the silence, and some stopped buying, some started listening, and some began to tell the truth that even after death, a mother's love cannot be buried, that even when erased, the spirit rises, that when the body is gone, memory lives, in hands, in herbs, in whispers, in daughters who light candles in the dark, and in sons who never sleep again.